Tori.
Looks like we're good. On the agenda,
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the agenda as presented.
have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We do have a Board of Ambulance.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we go into the Board of Ambulance.
Have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do we have a Board of Ambulance?
No,
Okay, yeah.
unless you might have an invoice for the ambulance.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. It wasn't marked off. Well,
You should have an invoice, but I don't think you go into the Board of Ambulance for invoices.
I didn't notice it. I kind of went through them. Anyway, sorry.
And Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we exit the Board of Ambulance. That would be a U-turn.
It's okay, we just do it for extra.
All right, we have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And what we have is, when I started looking at this is Blue Cross, and
Oh.
Board of Ambulance is never this expensive. It shouldn't be,
You're like,
How's that
yeah.
disclaimer?
so. All right. Then we have invoices, Commissioners Report, credit applications.
We are waiting for final claims to come in for the waterways. As soon as we get those, Kelly was gonna try and get a hold of Scott to see how much those were gonna be between Scott and Mike Jablowski. I talked to Mike, I think it was yesterday, and they had one last invoice that they were waiting for the delivery. They've received some wrong product.
Okay.
So they were gonna turn that invoice in today. But we're probably going to have some leftover monies that you had mentioned you wanted to maybe give to Power County or a different county,
Yeah.
so that we could maximize those funds.
Yeah,
So as soon as I have that number, I will get that to you and we'll just do a check request, but I don't know if you wanna have Braden sign off on that, so that we can sign off on it after today's meeting.
yeah.
Will that work?
That'd be fine.
Okay,
That'd be fine.
I just wanted to make sure to bring that to your attention so that we can get that paid in this fiscal year,
Which is,
which
Yeah.
claims are due today by 5 o'clock.
do we have a motion to authorize that?
For Braden to sign.
If Braden signs it, I think we're okay.
We've already given him.
Yeah, we've already given him.
If you guys want to sign it, then you would need to do an authorization.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and I'm glad you're here, Tori. I just noticed that in the claims, that you were reimbursed for mileage? That's what, I didn't know what it was.
For search and rescue?
Was, okay, so is it reimbursing the performance of the coroner or reimbursing the performance of search and rescue?
Search and rescue.
Okay. And they normally reimburse mileage, don't they? Okay. All right. Just tracking, just making sure I'm speeding. Okay.
Okay. Is there any concerns with that? Two different,
If you're
fulfilling two different responsibilities as an elected official.
if your performance is you just can't cross the, you got to make sure it stays separate. That's the big thing. And I would highly suggest, to tell you the truth, that if you're going to stay in the office of the coroner, I would probably find somebody to replace you as search and rescue, because then you never have that issue of it just crossing streams, because it's, are you there in the performance of the search and rescue, or there in performance of the coroner? I don't think there would be an issue. I think the only issue you would run into is like in a reimbursement situation, if it was reimbursed, but they should both come.
But it's only mileage.
It's only mileage.
So,
So it's not misuse of a thing, but just what I'm saying is just if there was ever where search and rescue changed or did something, just be very, very thorough and making sure that we annotate correctly and say, hey, no, this is for this. And and I think as long as that's done, I don't think there's.
the sheriff's office authorizes the payments for search and rescue mileage reimbursements.
Okay.
So there is that division right there.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, I'm sure there's a process of how they validate who's on scene. I would have to. Okay.
Okay, there you go.
So, have you ever been out on a search and rescue that ended up being, or that has the potential to become a coroner issue?
like I've called dispatch and I've said, hey, I'm not gonna be here, and I'm now taking over corner responsibility, so there is that.
And that's what I'm
In a
talking.
case like that, then your mileage would then go away,
Correct.
because you're there, okay, all right.
Well, and so that's what I'm saying is that's, just make sure you annotate that correctly.
Right.
Can we just, so that everybody's on the same page, the sheriff and everything, just maybe write up an HR policy that just says if Tori's out doing this and it turns into that, then he's not gonna be reimbursed for any travel expenses or something like that.
Some kind of memo.
So if you go out
Memo.
on search.
Well, I'll
and-
just tell you, it bothers me that you're doing both. It bothers me.
We technically don't have people serve on boards, committees, or anything if you're elected or anything, or if you work for the county. We don't have you do,
But he's not on the board.
no, you're not on a
It's a
board,
volunteer organization.
and that's,
And we're not double dipping.
yep. Well, and
Well, but that's what this looked like to me.
yeah, and that's why,
That's why I'm wondering if we do a memo so that everybody's on the same page, that it becomes clear and we don't have this issue.
so question would be, if you go out on search and rescue,
This is all I see.
do you take a coroner's vehicle with you
Right.
then?
Right.
Or do you take your
It
personal?
says September, so
Well,
I'm
and-
assuming he's being compensated.
Kelly,
Okay.
Kelly did
You
a,
can see my concern.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
there you go. That's
Absolutely.
the point too to get at is Tori right there. If you go out on the scene and you're in the coroner's vehicle and you go out for search and rescue, and it turns into coroner's, there's no mileage reimbursement at all because you have the county's vehicle. There's nothing there, and that's the whole thing that we need to make sure is annotated because that's what would get people hemmed up is you took the coroner's vehicle and put mileage reimbursement and were given mileage when there was not.
That would be double.
The other thing, though, is you should not use your personal vehicle for the coroner. Don't be like the coroner up in, was it Lemhi County that just put the body in the front seat, sitting there with him and throwing it back.
Wow, yeah, no.
I mean, that's, I just,
Get out of the upholstery.
I'm just saying, but, you know, again, have a good policy and have it written up and make sure that it's,
Yeah, would you
Well,
just work with Ryan on that? Put something
And
together?
really, we probably should have an outside activities forum in general. That, something I've been thinking of at another meeting, but, yeah. I think we could easy enough do a memo for this situation.
okay.
and I apologize, accounts payable was a little rushed and the description was less than ideal.
I totally understand Ernie's concern, and
Yeah.
I can respect that, so.
Well-
I think she was just feeling the pinch and
And
was not
that,
as thorough as she should have been.
but that's why I say just the annotation and, you know, nobody's ever gonna yell at anybody for explaining something and make sure that everybody knows what's there.
Well, like I said, still bothers me that an elected official is part-time underneath another elected official.
Yeah,
And
especially the one that you can arrest. That's really where you start getting into this. You're the only person that can arrest that individual. So I would highly suggest, while you can still do it or, you know, while it's there, let's find somebody that could probably take that over because where you are in that capacity, you are the only one that can arrest that individual. There are some powers of just what we do and don't do, so. But I always laughed at that only the coroner can arrest the sheriff.
Is that it for those?
Invoices, let's see.
Just saying, I mean, it's.
And also on the salary approval forms, the ones dated for October 1, those, in the past, we've not ran through the commission meeting to sign. Because those are approved through the budget process. So if you want to sign those at your leisure and then return them to our office.
Okay.
That's how we've done that in the past, unless legal sees a problem with it. The normal salary approval forms would be the ones that need to run through this meeting. And we will start bringing you those department salary approval forms to sign. Hopefully we can get you some this afternoon and tomorrow, and then next week for the rest of them. Just please try to keep the bundles you have within the same bundles, because that's the only way we know that we got them all back.
You know what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna have to mix them all.
Then you get to come visit our office.
I'm just playing, I'm just playing.
And there's only about 400 of them.
Oh, it's that one, those piles,
Yes,
yeah.
that file. So
That's
see,
good.
I know you won't do it.
Okay.
No,
invoices.
we're not doing that.
And those are all beer, wine.
That's why I have the
All we
head
have
sheet.
to do is,
Sorry, the salary approval forms aren't like that this year, but we'll see what we can do.
This
For
is
next
just
year.
awesome. I completely agree.
Your salary rate approval forms, some of that stuff, and like I said, I don't mind having like a digital signature on some of those where you just print them, where it's a general, it's a standard because there's an adjustment that's being made. I'm okay with that. I hate having a rubber stamp out there because somebody always uses it for something that they shouldn't. Every time I've ever had one, whether in the military or here, it just, no.
Well, and
you
our
don't-
problem with the salary approval forms is that's our authorization to pay those individuals. And so we can't do a blanket,
Yeah,
we could do a stamp, but we can't do a blanket cover sheet.
yep.
So we'll work on a better process once we're on Tyler, which finance go live is Monday.
Nice. Stress level?
By the way, I'm taking next week off.
Gotcha.
This is what I want, oh. This is what I want the sheriff's office. What is this thing right here?
Oh, that's cool. It's a 9mm.
Yeah, it's a SIG MPX. Or this little guy, or to another variance they have with it. They have the cup, that one. They have, oh, here you go. It's the copperhead. They're so much better for,
Wasn't he supposed to be budget? That's something I was doing.
Yeah, yeah, and so that's what we're gonna spend.
Oh, you said 30.
approve that one.
yep, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the commissioners' invoices, commissioners' reports, and credit applications as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have salary rate approval forms.
Can I jump back to invoices real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
I just got notice, Kelly just texted me, and we've got about 19.5 in invoices for waterways. So, I believe we have 28 to 30,000 spent on waterways. And then we split that up.
4 tons in there and something. People forget here, I swear they take them.
Fashion somehow, I don't know where else it would fit with the
Okay, so before we decided that we'd spend everything we could up here at the event
Right.
center, and then anything after that, we would send to
Power County.
Power County.
Okay, so that's good, even if it's like 9,000, 10,000 dollars.
Send to power?
I'd rather
Yeah.
send it there than back to the
Yeah,
state.
I- no,
Yeah.
That's perfect. I just didn't know if there were any other
We
counties
use
you wanted to
that-
possibly send it to.
We use that dock out there, and so you go out there on a Saturday and it's all 1B license plates,
Okay,
so.
I just didn't want you to be surprised next week when you saw that much of a check for.
Nope, I'm fine with
Okay,
that.
perfect. Thank you, sorry.
And then, these are the ones we can sign at our leisure, she said. So we'll just take them downstairs and sign them after this. So, have a motion. No, can need a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the salary rate approval forms as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. Next, we have memorandum, and this is authorizing Braden to sign for GIS. We talked about it
Yep.
the other day.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the signature for the memorandum as presented.
Next, we have a restrictive spending request, which this is, we're past, right? I mean, if they spend now, it's gonna be in next year's budget.
Most likely, yes, because they haven't received it unless it's something that they're going to the store to pick up
Today.
today.
That's,
Cash
So
once
I
it's done.
I don't know what it is.
The one question would be is, and this is something that was just brought up at IAC. I was talking to one of the clerks or treasurers, one of them, because just, you know, when remittance goes on for taxes is when we get paid for taxing. Do we ever have a chance where we monitor, because we have big enough reserves, we don't ever have to worry about running out, except if somebody does a big purchase, like a big capital expenditure and stuff like that. Is there a way that we monitor that to know that? Because that was something I was always curious about, is
For
if,
cash flow?
yeah, so like if we went through and we bought like all of Kyle's graders and all of his asphalt and all of his salt all at once, I don't know if there would be, you know,
So when Jen reports to you,
Yeah.
that cash and operations report, that's cash by fund.
yeah, I was just curious if like, because I know we'd have the cash by fund and you can see it, but I don't know, because a lot of times we don't track like when somebody comes in and is asking for a lot of expense right at the first of the year, like how current that is and up to date, because it might be 30 days old and everybody's coming in all at once.
Cash flow,
Approve these or
I can
Yeah.
assure you cash flow is
approve that
I
one?
for us.
thought we
I
were,
mean,
When we have
Just
large
won't come out
purchases,
next
anything
year.
over
Budget
$100,000, because a lot of our money is
Whatever
in
it is.
it has
investments,
to come back.
then, and I'm not
My
sure if that's
opinion.
how it is now, but once upon a time, we had a lot of cash in investments, so we had to give Radine notice so that she could pull the money down.
Okay.
But I think that has kind of swayed because the, investment money or the money we get like off CDs and that kind of stuff, really, we're not gaining any more than what the bank would give us. So,
Okay.
she can usually pull money within 2 days.
I was just curious
So-
because, well, and then their budgets were, the county I was talking to was, I mean, they
A
were
little smaller.
really tiny.
Yeah.
And they were asking me, so how do you guys do that? I'm like, I'm pretty sure we have that.
We do.
I mean, because just knowing, understanding what our reserves capacity are and other stuff, that way, I don't think we would ever borrow, you know,
Yeah, we're good.
yeah. Okay.
so, go ahead. Restricted spending beer and wine licenses.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve beer and wine licenses and restrictive spending requests have been presented.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. That takes care of that part of it. Adam, where's he at?
He was yeah.
He'll be here at 9:30 is what he's planning on.
Do we need him earlier? I can walk down and grab him right
Yeah.
quick.
I can go get him if you want.
We got anything
How
else?
long is yours gonna take?
Hopefully, real smooth and quick.
Crawl right up here.
Crawl right on up. Get on up here.
Morning, Commissioners. Kyle Burmester, Bannock County Public Works Director. Got a few items before you today. First off, we're looking to go out and get us some salt ordered, get that coming in, our road salt for winter time. We've decided that we didn't have enough time to go out to a formal bid and go through that whole process, so we're just gonna go off of the state bid again for this fall, and then relook at it through the summer for next year to be prepared and maybe do our own bid. We'll see.
Is there enough vendors to actually warrant the bid process? I mean, do we have, I mean, because that's, I don't want
There's-
to say it's a rare commodity, but it's kind of a
There's
specialized commodity.
There's two pretty good sales in the area, and probably a third that's kind of,
No.
so, but yeah, there could be three, maybe. But the state is doing, they go for every 3 years, and then the fuel prices is all that what changes in travel on that bid.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes up this spring in March, and they'll rebid, so we'll see
See what's going on.
who's getting the bid
Okay.
in the spring.
Well, that's in our, in that purchasing meeting, there was a couple of things in there in the process that I thought was interesting, is that there is the piggyback, and then you can take that price, and if somebody else will match it, you can also go to them without bidding
Yes.
again. And so, there's some other avenues that, I don't know if we've used all the time or
Yeah, if
whatever.
they'll go exactly to what the other
spec is.
contract was, that spec, that we can go off of theirs too. We sometimes do that with equipment.
Okay.
So you're purchasing 80% of the need for next year? Did I read that right? Or is it 80% of the contract? It was 80% of the contract.
Oh, yeah, they just, if we do this contract, they want us to at least pay for 80% of it.
Okay.
This is all this, salt for this year, for FY '22.
Okay.
Okay.
A motion on that?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve a piggyback bid with Compass Materials for the de-icing salt as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimous.
Thank you. Next, we have a task order with Great West Engineering. That's to start out our FY '22 budget, to authorize them to continue to work on the expansion project. In the amount of, an estimated amount of $182,000. There's about 143 that we're gonna use. We're a little bit, our contract with MK Whedon to do this work is 2.8, 165,000. We've got 2.5 in this next year's budget. So I told engineering and stuff, they wrote it up that if funds are available, we'd like to get started on lining in that process, so by fall we could be putting lining in. So that's why that's kind of says that is, we're gonna look for funding where we can to finish out with what we'll owe MK Whedon.
What are we talking about for total cell 4 expansion? What do you think the total cost is going to be on that over the next? Because it's going to take, what, 2 years to get done?
Well, and that's just gonna be phases too.
Well, yeah,
So
it's in this
this'll be
phase,
all
I
the
mean.
dirt work and only lining about 2 benches.
Okay.
And then you'll have all these benches that go on from
And
there.
we're thinking it's going to exceed 2.8 for this phase? Or 2.5? Is that
For just the dirt works, 2.8.
2.8? And so then then just to line those 2 benches, how much do you think it's going to be? I mean, we're going to be,
I don't know, cause liner, you couldn't even get it this year, so
Do you have an estimate?
most of the companies have been highly not wanting to give estimates right now because that, the HDP liner,
1.5 to 2 million.
yeah, somewhere in there.
All right,
I mean,
that's just.
We,
I realize
it was
we're-
hard, it's so hard to know that, like, our engineering estimate for this dirt work was 4 million, and we got it for 2.8, so it's hard when you're a million off one way or the other, it's kind of.
Well, my point was just setting the expectation level. Is this like at $500,000 for the liner, or was it $5 million for the liners?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, we're between 1 and 2?
1.5 to $2 million project.
Okay.
But there've been some pretty good spikes in that liner material. That's been one of the hardest things to get right now. So it's been
So
a,
that's why we're hoping to start with that process in the spring, so we can figure out what we're gonna have to pay and how far out it is to get it here.
okay.
Motion on task 3.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve task order number 3 with Great Western Engineering Incorporated for Cell 4 Phase 2 landfill expansion at the Fort Hall Mine landfill as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously. Contract with Bingham County. And you've read this? Okay.
So I worked with legal on this. There was from what we had, the old kind of agreement we looked at, we took out 2,
That's why Mark went and talked to me.
we took out 2 sections, and it was insurance and workman's comp. And we both kind of felt that why, being government agencies with ICRIMP and stuff, why are we trying to say we need to prove that we have insurance? We would kind of figure we both do. So we didn't think that was just kind of more things that didn't need in the contract.
Just for the record, would you just touch basis on the total fees on that of what they went to? for the Bingham County contract. Just, I'm reading through again, and I didn't go back and make sure, but just refresh me, would you?
So what they've been in the
Yeah,
last.
where were they at?
Yeah, where were they at, where are they now?
So we went to $30 a ton from 27, and we've been at $30 a ton for 10 years.
Uh-huh,
And now we're going to $45 a ton.
okay.
The $45 a ton actually makes Bingham County pay the same as what Bannock County residents are paying. So that's why there's the large increase to them.
Okay.
Well, you had them a little concerned, going to $65 a ton tomorrow.
I was ready to go 65.
Well,
I was like, game on,
they
man.
kinda didn't have as much urgency as I did, and so I just tried to explain without a contract. It says in our resolution that without a contract, any out of county is $65 a ton. So,
Well, and I appreciate you putting this as a 1-year auto renew with,
and then we'll review it each year, see where we're at. I think we're gonna be really good at these prices with what we, researched for the remediation and stuff. This will
Yeah.
kinda help us stay afloat.
So along this line, they'll sign this tomorrow. So we're not gonna go to 65 for one day. It'll be at 45 as we sign this contract.
Yeah.
Commissioner Manwaring was very concerned when he visited with me.
I just wanted something going besides just talking about it, so.
I appreciate it 100%. Perfect.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we sign the solid waste agreement with Bingham County and authorize them to stay at the $45 rate for one day until they get their contract signed.
Sounds good, thank you.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Adam?
Okay, guys, you just heard, we just spent like $2.5 million, so money things you should probably be careful with. I'm just saying. You probably wanted to have not had Kyle go first, but I'm just saying.
Good morning, Commission. I'm Adam McKinney, Electronic Communications Director. This morning, we are seeking advisement and possibly a resolution to join the Idaho State Public Safety Communications Commission grant program as a county. Currently, we are one of the only counties in the state who's not a member of this group. And I outlined in the information provided in the packet the reasoning behind the IPSCC and what their grant system is for. Basically, what we're looking for is the commission to approve that we have the carriers for cell phones and landline telephones in the county who provide that service to raise the fee from $1 to $1.25. This is not necessarily a tax, it's a fee that's collected. 911 is revenue generated, so this money goes into the 911 fund. Basically, currently, right now, the $1 that's collected, Bannock County directly receives 98 cents of that dollar. The IPSCC receives 1 penny, and the carriers themselves keep 1 penny. That's for their administrative costs. Under the new rule, under the enhanced rule where we would collect $1.25, the county would immediately see that entire dollar go into our revenue. The additional 23 cents, again, the carriers would keep 1 cent. The IPSCC would get 1 cent for administration, and that 23 cents would go into a statewide grant fund. That statewide grant fund, I outlined in the information the things that it can pay for. As you know, with 911, we are being asked to fund some fairly large infrastructure upgrades over the next few years to move to next-gen 911. Currently, the way we are structured, Bannock County is an island. We are a standalone system. We do not incur and receive any of this grant funding money. So some of this asks that are being levied against us for these upgrades, this money that the grant system can fund some of our projects they can use to fund. We could free up some additional money to do some of these larger projects. I brought with me the 911 group. I know that the chairman and the commission had tasked the 911 group to decide what would be the future of 911 and funding in in Bannock County. In our group, we've discussed this, and we feel that interoperability and joining with the state as a team makes more sense than standing as a standalone island going forward. Simply, what's happening is the state, through the IPSCC and the military division, is consolidating dispatching centers. It makes sense from a standpoint of some of this equipment costs a lot of money up front, and some of the capacity on the equipment goes underutilized in some of these smaller counties. So what we've looked at, and some of the other counties are doing, is the intergovernance boards they will set one location as a core site for 911 dispatch. And basically what that means is that site can purchase the larger capacity equipment, maintain that equipment, and the smaller counties can connect into that system. We're already doing that with Power County. Power County is an IPSCC grant recipient. They connect into our 911 Vesta system, which is the call dispatching system, and we basically provide them the services that would be cost prohibitive for them to get on their own. And if we were to get into this IPSCC grant funding, we can expand that, and Bannock County can become the core site for some of these smaller counties around us. We've already talked with some of the counties like Caribou County and Bingham County who are interested in connecting into us because technically it makes more sense for them to stay closer and connect in. And if we become a core system, we open up this grant funding for our county. If we don't, we're basically still going to go it alone, and we're going to be on our own system. I know that the reasons that this was looked at again in like 2004 by the previous director, he was not on board with this. He felt that this would open Bannock County up to having more direction from the state than we wanted to have at the time. At that point in time, though, we would have been one of the first counties to join this program. At this point in time, we are one of the last counties to not be in this program. 40 of the 44 counties in the state currently are in the program and collect this fee. We're on the last of the group that isn't collecting this fee. And I just feel it opens us up to a much more expanded opportunity base for us to modernize and continue to have infrastructure that is state-of-the-art and brings cost-sharing abilities for some of the smaller counties around us and to us so that we can recognize those savings and redirect that money into some of these projects that we need large amounts of money for by utilizing the IPSCC grants to pay for some of the stuff that they can cover, that we would open us up to be able to use our money on some of our other projects.
2 questions for you.
Yes.
How many households and phone lines would this affect?
It's about 40,000.
So you're talking, it would be a $10,000 increase to the citizens of Bannock County. Because while it is a fee, technically it's not a tax, it's a user fee. Anything that government does interject is still a tax. It's just a nicer way of putting it, is what we're doing. So that would be about $10,000 then that we would increase.
Yeah.
My second question is who are the other counties that aren't involved in this system?
Idaho County, Ada County, and Bonneville County. And the reasons behind those are varied. I'm not certain exactly why Idaho County's not involved. They're a fairly small county. Ada County, on the other hand, has the user base for revenue. They don't feel that they need it. Bonneville County has become a hub in and of itself, but the current way that the funding works, the grants for the counties that connect to Bonneville County have to be kept completely separate. If we're a hub site, a core site, that's funded through the IPSCC, it makes those other smaller counties, the grant funding to connect to us, a considerably cleaner process. We can utilize the funds, they can utilize the funds. It covers things like the networking fees, it covers the server gear equipment, the routers, the switches, things that bring those connections and enable them to utilize us as a core site.
So then that would bring into my next question then, okay, we're going to pay $10,000 into the pool. What is the likelihood of grants that we would get, and what is the likelihood in the reimbursement aspect of that? Because, I mean, the one thing you don't want to do is we pay in, but we never get out. I mean, the criteria set in a way that a lot of the grants that the state of Idaho runs, they actually, the bigger in population you are, the less likely you are to be able to award that grant.
I could bring up Dave Moore from the IPSCC who can answer some of that information. Dave, would you like to come up?
And I do have to give you all kudos. I just want you all to realize this, that when we started talking this with the 911, I think like getting everybody in a room and trying to talk was like this amped up, we're gonna have a yelling conversation, and now we have everybody in the room together and we're all working in the same direction. So I just really have to say thank you to everybody for showing up today.
Absolutely.
That's what I like to see.
Please announce yourself.
Commissioners, my name is Dave Moore. I retired from the Blackfoot Police Department in 2013 as Chief of Police. 36 years in law enforcement. Started with the Chubbuck Police Department right next door. Since 2013, I've been working with the 911 Commission as the grant administrator. I carried the legislation back in 2008 to the legislature when I was on the 911 Commission with another commissioner and Mayor Garrett Ancolas from Caldwell. And we carried that legislation through the legislature. It passed the House unanimously. When we got to the Senate side, Senator Davis put that bill in his drawer, said he wasn't going to pass it because it was a tax on the people. And we'd already come out of the House, now we're on the Senate side, so we had to come to an agreement with Senator Davis that in order for that to be proposed to the Senate, that we would rewrite that piece of legislation, that each county would have to pass a resolution for their citizens to accept that fee. I still call it a fee, because I look at it the same as the 911 fee that we charge on each phone now, the $1, you would actually change it to $1.25. So as Adam told you, that passed, it went forward. 40 of the counties passed the resolution that we currently work with through the IPSCC. We don't have Ada County on board. A lot of that is population based on their side. Idaho County, they are in the discussions now, my understanding is with the sheriff up there and their Digby, that they're in the discussions to bring them on board because they want to be part of the fiber project that we're doing up north right now with iron. So they're in discussions with Idaho County right now. The other county that Adam brought up is Bonneville County. Bonneville County is not a grant recipient. They are also one of those that made the comment that our grant, our population base and our current funding would fund our 911 needs. They came to me several years ago, wanted to be a core, which is what Adam's talking about making Bannock County a core. The state goal is to quit putting so many large answering systems into these small counties that actually have the capability of running 96 dispatch ports, and they're only using 1 or 2. So the idea was to now combine those and network into them. Think of a wagon wheel with a hub in the center, and we got spokes going out. And that's what we're doing. We've done it in North Idaho. We've done it in Nez Perce County. We've done it in Washington Payette County. We're hooking Adams and Valley County into them next year. Owyhee County, Canyon County. We've got everybody around you. Now the situation we have in southeast Idaho with Bonneville. Bonneville County did what Adam said, where they bought the larger system with the idea of hooking on more counties. If we move forward the grants that were issued this year, they're going to hook their 10th county into Bonneville this year, 10. You have 3 counties south of you that are going around you hooking to Bonneville County. Those counties could be coming here if you were the hub. So Bonneville we had to find a system with them to build a firewall. I hate to call it, but that's what it is. Because whatever monies we give to a grant recipient county, I have to track those separate and make sure they do not benefit the county that is not accepting grant funds. But we did find a way to at least try to work with them, but it does hinder the county and the equipment vendors, where we have to have that breakdown, and it's not as smooth as it up north, where we just work with them as one grant recipient. Your question about, is there any guarantee that you get money in for money out? There's never a guarantee. But you talked about how much money you would put in just that 1 year. If you were to pass that resolution and put in a grant in the 2023 cycle, which opens up May 1, that would open the door for these people behind me to put in a grant to become a core center. I have Caribou County just south of you who's sitting on $220,000 now. They are now waiting to find out what Bannock County's going to do because they want to come here rather than Bonneville County. It's shorter, networking fees would be shorter, be more cost effective for them that way. If your county was to put in for a grant through the IPSCC next year, if you pass that resolution, that grant would probably be in the neighborhood of around $250,000, $300,000. Consolidated grants get priority in our system. So anybody who's consolidating and working on a consolidated system, they get first shot at the grant funds. From there, it just goes down the line from networking charges to equipment fees, additional dispatch fees we pay for with medical dispatching, Pro QA, recorder maintenance. And then on top of that is what I'd like you to think about. Right now, you're paying maintenance on a large answering system for 911. So let's just say you have 30 seats or sitting on there. As you start bringing in the counties around you that hook onto that, you now spread the maintenance of that system equally with how many seats they're hooking in. So every time you add some more from the outside county, your maintenance on your main system comes down because you're now sharing it proportionally with the use of the counties around you are being paid to do that with IPSCC grant funds. When we first proposed this to Bannock County originally, we were told them, we don't want the state to have any control over our system. I'm telling you, I've been running the grant since 2013 for the IPSCC. We don't tell any entity what to do with that money. Once the money's granted, it goes into their coffers. I just do the audits and make sure they spend the money on what we said they could buy. We have no control over how they run their systems.
Okay.
Well, I can say that I've been here for 3 years, and this is the third time it's come before us. So it's your predecessor was very much against it. And then the voice is to put another, and you can call it tax, you can call it whatever you want, but it's 25 cents per line, and that's still a tax to me. Just plain and simple. It's a fee that somebody has to pay. But I also see we have a new director. We are going in a whole different direction than we have gone in the past. And for me, I'm supportive of our director.
Yep. So this is the third time. Actually, I think this is the fourth time for me. But I would say that this is the first time it's been explained. And actually, we have a coalition of the county sitting behind us. And we have everybody here. When you start looking at your grant, that's why I was getting to the funding mechanism, because a lot of times the big counties, we are punished for being big. They want our money, but we're going to give you negative points when you put in on this grant because your population side. And I like to hear it when you say that no, we're looking at project specific instead of just we're gonna charge you for your population and then punish you for your population at the same time. To go with Ernie and just kind of the discussion, this is something now that we have a plan. We're moving forward. We're not just collecting a tax to collect a tax to have money to do that, because that was one of the big problems too in the last couple times we've had this is, well, there's here, but the director and how there was no clear guidance. The one thing I would say though, what is your timeline on stuff like this? Is there a specific timeline that we're in a crunch for?
I wish my boss was here, but he couldn't be here.
Well, I mean, do we have like 30, 60 days? What do we have?
If you were to pass, I'm going to give you an example of Blaine County. Blaine County was one of the last ones to come on. They were one of our holdouts.
And that's the example resolution that was in the packet as well.
Well, let me rephrase this. Is there a deadline that we have to be by? Because whenever it comes to fees, specifically fees, which we charge fees and other stuff, is we would probably have to have a public hearing, and it would need to be done. And I would actually, at this point, be recommending that we do hold that public hearing and move forward. And actually, I guess I could just do this formally. As Mr. Chairman, I would move that we hold the public hearing to consider the fee and prepare the resolution and move forward with this project.
Before we move forward with that, what is your concerns with bookkeeping and how things will work that way in the county?
I need to get more information on how we're going to process it and how we're going to do it. And with going live Monday on the new accounting system, I'd really love to push this off a little bit because we're already overwhelmed. But having to collect that fee and then turn around and remit it plus I don't know how we're gonna notify all the vendors. I don't know, we've gotta give them some time and some notice that they're gonna have to.
Yeah, change their structure.
Yeah, and so we're gonna need some time to identify those individuals, and
That's,
that's gonna take.
that's
some time.
part of it, especially with like holding your public hearing, you'll start notifying, it's starting to go out, so when vendors say, well, we didn't ever see this, well, not only did we notify you, but we held the public hearing to be in. I mean, to notify for public hearing, what is the timeline for public hearing notification?
Yeah, I mean, that's coming under Idaho code, right? But you have to advertise in the newspaper, and then you have to hold it with a certain amount of time right after that. And that's what I was gonna bring up. If there's gonna be a fee increase or whatever, we do have to have a public hearing.
So we're at 30 to 45 days.
Yes,
out
just
from
to
a
hold the
final
public
decision.
hearing.
Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
No, we don't have a timeline, just so you know.
Okay.
The timeline will come to you. As long as that resolution gets passed within 2021, you will be eligible for the 2023 grants to come out May 1.
Okay.
So that way you're starting to put in that grant fund for at least 6 to 9 months by the time the grants roll around next year. As far as the funding goes, the Department of Finance for the Department of Military, we hold those funds in an account. So those monies are transferred to me in the IPSCC. We create an account for the county. Once we allot that money, let's just say we allot you $500,000, then that money comes into a fund that I track that with the military. They get the money back as they spend it, and I request a check from the Department of Military that's sent to the county clerk, is put into a fund to pay for those equipments. So most counties have a fund to channel that through.
The grant side's easy. I'm worried about the collecting, the turnaround, remitting, notifying our
Yeah, once the
vendors to
resolution's
pay us.
passed, the vendor, cell companies and telephone companies, they're aware of what they need to do as well.
Yeah, and then speaking with Blaine County, the emergency communications director there, they notified them with an official letter after their public hearing.
Do you
So
have a list of who all those people are? that-
we've started to round that
That's-
up. There
and-
is a
and-
large list, and it will
That's-
take a little bit of time, but yes, absolutely, we can get to
And
that.
That's what I'm concerned about, is getting that list
Yes.
and the notification. But we'll just need some time. It's totally doable. We just need some time to,
So it just needs to be approved by middle of December at some point then, right?
I'm just letting you know that if the sooner it gets done, the sooner you go into the grant fund to be qualified for funding next year.
And realistically, you're gonna have with holidays and where you're looking at public hearing probably, I mean, you're usually 30 to 45 days in a quick turnaround. So, I mean, realistically, you're looking at to have a public hearing, probably right before Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving is when it would be, to make sure that everybody has enough time, that everybody's there. Because when you start increasing somebody's bill and they're gonna watch, and it's gonna be amazing how many people never have paid attention to this until all of a sudden their cell phone bill changes by 25 cents. Somebody's gonna lose their mind, and we're gonna have, again, we wanna make sure that we give ample time in this one. This is not a rush for a public hearing, but we wanna make sure we do that
I'm
correctly.
just telling you, they're not gonna pay attention.
They're not.
If it's on TV or their phone, they're not gonna pay attention. Those are essential.
You're gonna have that
Doesn't
same.
matter
You're
what
gonna
age
have that
group.
same. The same 50 to 100 people.
Yeah, sure.
That complain. They will notice. But the rest, nobody else will pay attention.
Chief Gates, would this make you a happy man?
Absolutely.
I'm just excited, like Commissioner Tubby says, to see all of the boys in blue here today to support this, and so I think it is a wonderful thing, and I agree. It's nice to have a direction, a plan, and the support and the unity of you guys, so I am 100% in favor of this. So,
So, let's,
Restate.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to authorize a public hearing to consider the fee increase for the 911 system for the, excuse me, I want to say this correctly here, make sure that we're good, for the IPSCC grant program, and authorize it to move forward as presented.
Questions?
is it the IPC program, or is there some?
Or the grant program, that's how it's listed on
It's
the,
through the state of Idaho under Title 31.
yep,
So,
Title 31, the Militia Acts, I believe is where it's at.
Okay, all right.
under communications.
Yep.
All right, we have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you very
We'll let
much.
you all know when the hearing is.
Sounds good.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Is that we set a recess for a minute? And while we have everybody in the room, it's kind of good to grab some people before we jump right into the next thing.
What's that?
Oh, no, I just,
You wanna talk to me?
if we take a 5-minute recess, I was just gonna go
We'll
shake
be at
hands.
recess